What is going on, guys? Today I'm going to be reviewing the film Ambulance that just dropped in theaters a few days ago. This is a Michael Bay directed movie, and I saw it just because a lot of my friends wanted to go see it, and I thought to myself, why the hell not, right? It wasn't one I was looking forward to, really. Like, I saw a trailer when I went to see Morbius, and I thought, you know, it looked okay, it looked fine. I think I also saw a trailer back when I saw The Batman. Definitely wasn't one that was on my radar, and I wasn't definitely rushing to go see it, but, you know, people wanted to go, so I was like, sure, I'll go. And I liked it a lot more than I thought I did, but there's also a lot of issues with it. So this is one of those movies that when I came out of the theater, I loved it. Like, I thought it was incredible. But when I thought about it a little bit, I was like, okay, it wasn't as good as I originally thought, but it's still really fun, I guess is the best word to describe this movie. So we're going to go through it. We're going to go through the positives and the negatives and give a score at the end. First of all, the biggest positive I can say about this movie, it's fun. This is an action-packed popcorn type movie. This isn't something that has any like deep storylines or any deep characterizations. They do have some stuff there that is, in my opinion, good, but in general, it's not really the type of movie where you should be thinking that much when you watch it. It's really one of those movies that you go just to kind of have a good time, which in that case, it was a very good time. This is one of the most entertaining movies I've watched in quite a while. It kept you immersed in this entire story for the entire 2 hours and 20-minute run. It was a pretty long movie, actually, longer than I thought it was going to be. So a lot of points in the movie, and I saw a couple people point this out as a negative, but I didn't think it was a negative. A lot of people said it was a little too long because a lot of points you were like, okay, is it going to end here? Is it going to end here? And it just kept going. But I mean, I pay like, what, $15 for the damn ticket? I kind of want to get a long experience. So I was okay with it. And I didn't think it was dragging or anything because that longer time was all still action-packed, intense fun. So I had absolutely no problem with it being a little bit longer. So essentially what this movie is, because a lot of you might have not seen it, it's very similar to Speed from 1994, but not in terms of the plot, just in terms of the fact that it's about a moving vehicle that is not stopping moving for pretty much the entire runtime, and other than a couple little moments where they stop for whatever reason. But it's not stopping because of a bomb like in Speed, rather it's a heist. Jake Gyllenhaal's character, I believe his name was Danny, and Yahya, Abdul-Mateen, I think that's how you say his name, who is slowly becoming one of my favorite actors, by the way. He's incredible in everything he's in. He plays William, and they're brothers, and they are essentially on this heist mission that they had a bunch of other people with them prior, and they eventually have to hijack an ambulance because they got to get the hell out of there, and they don't have a vehicle, so they hijack this ambulance. And when they hijack it, there's an officer. I won't go into details, but there's an officer who's injured, and this EMT that's on that ambulance with them is trying to like help this guy because they're interesting criminals. Danny and William, they're not necessarily like bad criminals in a sense. I mean, Danny kind of is, but William's definitely the moral one. He's only doing it for money so he can get it for his wife because his wife needs really expensive surgery and doesn't have the money for it. So that's the only reason he's doing it, is to get the money. So you kind of sympathize for him a little bit. And I sympathized for him throughout the entire movie. He was actually caring for the different people in the situations, and he didn't want to hurt people. They were just trying to get the money. But they end up in this really crazy high-speed chase against the police while they're in this ambulance, and they're essentially just moving through the city of LA for the entire 2-hour runtime. And it gets crazy with some of the things that happen. A lot of awesome moments. Even just the heist mission alone was really intense. But when they get to the road, it's a lot of fun, crazy stuff. Seeing the cops involved and everything. And it's basically like a GTA in real life movie in a way. And I really enjoyed it. And the character of Danny and William, they were both really great. I mean, again, Jake Gyllenhaal and Yahya, they do a great job of portraying these characters. They're very fun to watch on screen. They have a couple of really fun moments. There's one moment where they're listening to music and like singing and stuff. It's funny. There's a couple of funny moments there. Not everything's funny. I'll talk about them in the negatives. There are some things that did not work at all for me, but as a whole, it was a pretty fun ride, I gotta say. And I do like the way they were also, going with the cops and the FBI throughout the movie. They weren't just focusing on what was going on in the ambulance. They're also focusing on the cops and the detectives and such, trying to track them down and stop them, because it was kind of showing, both sides. And I like this because I feel like a lot of movies, especially recently, it's like all the cops are just these corrupt D-bags, and I kind of like when a movie represents cops in a good light. So I kind of like how this movie did that. There were a couple things there where, you know, they showed, especially towards the end of the movie. Again, I don't want to go into specifics for spoilers, but there's a couple things where it shows out some issues, social commentary with police. But I do like, for the most part, how the police were relatively good people, and I really enjoyed watching them on screen. In particular, Garrett Dillahunt, who plays John Dory on Fear the Walking Dead. You Walking Dead fans know what I'm talking about. He played one of the cops, and he was really fun to watch. He was really cool, really fun character. So yeah, like I said, fun movie. I keep using the word fun because it's honestly the best way to describe it. The directing for this film. So this is a Michael Bay movie. This has got to be one of the most Michael Bay movies I've ever seen. Like, it is his directing, but like on steroids. And some of it was actually really solid and I really liked, but some of it wasn't. So this is kind of a mixed one. I'm leaving it in the positive because I think I liked it more than I didn't, but there's a couple things I didn't like about it. That mainly has to do with a couple of the shots felt so unnecessary. For me, when it comes to directing, the shots you do have to have purpose. There's got to be a reason why you're doing that shot. Don't just do it because it looks cool, you know? There's got to be a reason. And there's a couple shots he did here in particular where the camera would start at like a weird angle on top of a building and like fly down the building and then like go upwards like that. And I just, every time they did that shot, I'm like, what was the point of that? That was, I think, the only time I felt that way, but most of the other shots were pretty cool. There's a lot of interesting tracking shots, a lot of drone shots as well, which I liked. It was all very fast, the camera shots. Like, they didn't keep the camera still like ever, which some people might not like. I think it depends on the movie, but because this movie is a very high, you know, intensity, fast film, I almost felt like that made sense. So the shaky cam and such, like, it almost immersed you in it. Like in the ambulance scenes, they were a lot of shaky cam, and those scenes, it felt like it made sense because you're in an ambulance being chased by a bunch of police. I mean, it's a little intense. It's gonna feel a little intense. So I thought for the most part, the directing was pretty good. Again, some of those shots felt kind of unnecessary. They were a little bit too much of the flashiness, but I thought it was cool. And there was a couple of shots just completely circling around two characters while they're speaking and stuff. And again, I don't know. It's definitely one of those movies that's going to appeal most to the people who have really short attention spans, which isn't a bad thing. I think there's movies that do, you know, slow burns good, and there's movies that do this type of stuff good. And I think you can enjoy both. I don't think we have to pick and choose. I feel like a lot of people do that. They're like, oh no, that type of storytelling's bad. No, they can both be good. It just depends how it is. I don't know. But in terms of directing styles, I do think this is an okay directing style. Again, some of the shots were a little weird. And I do like this storyline with these other characters that are involved. His name was Poppy, and I don't know if that's his actual name, but that's the name they called him. And he was a friend of the father of the brothers that we follow in the film, and they had this whole other, you know, crime organization going on, and they essentially help out in the film at a certain part. And I really like their inclusion in the film. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen the film. I like what they did, a little, I don't want to call it twist, but what they did later on in the film with that group. I thought it was just adding a lot to the movie, and it made it just, again, more fast-paced, more intense, and more shocking in a lot of the scenes as well. So I like that. And one last thing, some of the scenes felt pretty heartfelt in a lot of moments. Like, I do think the way they ended it, especially with the character of Cam, I think Cam's character was the most interesting part of the movie in terms of her journey in this, because she was very cold-blooded in the beginning, and she kind of changes throughout the film a little bit due to the events of what happens. And I don't know who the actress was. I never really seen her in anything else before, but she did a great job, and she was a lot of fun to watch. So props to her. Now with the negatives, there's really not a lot of things, but the ones that I thought of immediately, there's a lot of plot holes and logic inconsistencies, I guess. But again, it's not something you think of when you're watching the movie. I didn't think of any of these while I was watching it. I had to think about it as I, thought about it throughout the day. But when I was first watching it, even walking out of the theater, none of this came to mind, which is why right away I gave this film a really high rating when I first went to Twitter and Letterboxd to give it a rating. But when I thought about it a little bit, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of issues there. In particular, there's a lot of issues with first of all, the police themselves. They're not very good in this film, like in terms of their effectiveness of stopping this ambulance. I feel like there's a lot of moments where they could have easily stopped the ambulance, but I don't call it, I guess it would be plot armor. They don't a lot of the time. They fail. And it's like, I don't know if there was a better way to keep this, intense and keep the movie, its length without making it so there was a lot of moments where I was like, wait, why couldn't you stop them there? And they would like stop to like just chill for a little bit for many different scenes, which never made sense to me. I get sometimes they're trying to like, regroup and come up with a plan, but like you're giving them more time to think, more time to do things, and I just don't think that's what a police organization would do when they're trying to stop criminals on the road. I don't know. A couple of things there. Also, Danny as a character, they kept mentioning that he was like this really big, well-known criminal who had like 30 plus bank robberies in the past, and they didn't really like go over that much in depth. But like, how has he not been caught? Like, he shows his face all over the place. They know him, they know his name, they see his face, and he just rolls up to the place to rob the bank without a mask on. So that was a little weird to me. I don't know, I didn't think about it when I was watching it. Didn't even come to mind. But then I was like, yeah, that's a problem there. And even just logic inconsistencies with some of the surgical things. I'm not a doctor, so I can't, be completely informed on this, but some of it seemed a little bit far-fetched, like when she's having her hands inside of this guy's stomach trying to take out this bullet, because that's what was happening in the movie with the officer that was injured in the ambulance. And there was a lot of moments where I was just like, yeah, I don't know if it would work like that, I don't know. And that's just medically, it just didn't, I didn't think it made a lot of sense. I don't know. But again, I don't think this movie really cared. I just don't, because I think it was just trying to have a fun popcorn movie that people can just sit back and relax, turn their brains off for 2 hours. And I think the movie was really effective at that. And I wasn't completely turning my brain off, because some of it was really intense situations that I still had fun watching, and it felt real in the way they did it. So I don't know, a lot of cool practical effects. There wasn't like a crazy load of CGI or anything. Like, a lot of it was just practical, insane, intense action. And I enjoyed that. So this movie is solid. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Might be high for some people, I don't know, but it was enjoyable. I probably would have given it like a 9 out of 10 straight out of the theaters, but it kind of lowered a little bit as I thought about it. So 8 out of 10 sounds good to me. It still is solid, definitely one of Michael Bay's best movies, but I haven't seen all his movies yet, so I can't really make a full-on decision there. I haven't seen The Rock or Armageddon. Those are the two. I haven't seen Bad Boys either, so I have to see those three, and then I guess I will have seen pretty much most of his movies, most of his popular ones at least. One more negative that I didn't mention: they also had a lot of humor that I don't think worked, in my opinion. A lot of like just misplaced humor. Like I said, some of the moments were funny, but some of them weren't at all. I don't know what they were trying to do with some of that, especially in the first half of the film. There's a lot of weird lines of dialogue that I didn't like. I didn't like at all. So yeah, enjoyable movie. I liked it. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments section below. If you have seen it, if you haven't, then I guess let me know if you're planning on seeing it or not. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.